Our first question today is from Kathy, and it is this. I'm thinking about cutting the legs in my wetsuit by 3 or 4 inches, thinking that it would be easier to get them off. What are your thoughts on eliminating that much material from your full length wetsuit, Wendy?
Hey, Kathy, thanks for the question. So I've never cut a wetsuit, but I've heard of other people cutting off their sleeves or cutting part of their legs, like she's suggesting, to either make it easier to get on and off, as well as it's too warm and they don't really need sleeves, so they've cut their sleeves off. So I went and just did a Google search just to see, if that's kind of what people do and how to do it properly. And I had sent her some links about doing that just because I have no experience with it. I do know that one reason I dislike wetsuits is the time it takes to come off and, running into some barriers, especially with the legs and stomping on your legs and maybe having to sit down to pull the wetsuit off. And they do have wetsuit strippers to make it easier for you. And I also wear a very large wetsuit. I will wear a men's large sleeveless wetsuit just because of the fact that it does slip on and off my body a lot easier than like I would normally probably wear a women's small, which I don't. And so I do definitely understand why she wants to do that. Again, I would just do it, I would do it properly. So that's why I sent her some links and videos to show her how to do it based on what other people have done.
I mean, I'm sure that compromises the quality of the wetsuit. I don't know if that would create any rubbing or possible rash on your shins or your knees, because there's no movement there, as opposed to maybe your shoulders if you were to cut off your shoulders with some scissors on your wetsuit. I don't know.
Yeah. And I haven't watched the full videos, but the videos, there are a lot of them of success that people have had of cutting off their wetsuits. So I wanted to include this question in the podcast because there's probably others thinking of the same thing and they just don't know how to do it.
And we spoke in the last couple episodes, and what you say is that, you don't do a lot of kicking anyway when you're in a race in a full-length wetsuit. It's for buoyancy, and the legs are just there for somewhat balance and maybe a slight flutter, but you really don't use the legs. So you're not really gaining too much. Well, are you really losing that much buoyancy if you, let's say, you cut off from the knees below?
No, I'm going to say no because I also like the core shorts that we have from Blue 70, and there's also called Sim shorts, and other brands have different names where they're just the short. So they're just above the knee, and the purpose of them is just to keep your hips up.
Yeah.
They don't really provide any warmth because they're just, from the hips to the knee length. And so I think if you cut your wetsuit, it would be more like a sim short or a lava pant back in the day. We're talking, early 2000s. My husband got a pair of what was called lava pants because they went down to your shin. And so they weren't as short as a core short, but they weren't full legs all the way to your ankle. They stopped at about the shin. And so that's kind of what it seems like. If you cut your legs off, you would want them to be cut at about shin height.
Have you ever experimented, because I have, and I'll tell you my results, experimented with swimming with your regular swim suit, then core shorts, and then full wetsuit, on how much time, I don't know if you can break it down by percentage, but how much more time you're saving by wearing each of the three elements in a swim?
Well, what I have done, and I think I did it after I saw what you did, was I swam 1,000 with just a swimsuit. I swam 1,000 with the core short, and I swam 1,000 with the pull buoy. Because I didn't do the 1,000 swim. I actually just compared pull buoy to core short, and I was definitely faster in the core short. But I also know that I had to take into consideration of I swam the core short one first, so I was a little bit more rested than when I swam it with the pull buoy. But there was about a 30-second difference in that 1K that I did in the pool, and I tried to maintain a similar rate of perceived effort. So I tried to keep as many variables as possible constant, and the only differentiation was the core short and the pull buoy. I don't think I did the wetsuit that year.
Because I've always thought about with the tightness that I have around my shoulders and my delts, because I've got some broad shoulders and my arms and shoulders are somewhat muscular, so it's kind of hard to get something that's flexible in that area. And maybe other people have experienced that too.
Uh-huh.
If you have a suit that's a little bit half size too small, you have some soreness or some
Mm-hmm.
early fatigue after a 1.2 mile swim or a 2.4 mile swim, and it's like that's just, I don't want that energy, that match to be lit too soon, and then I'm dealing with a little bit of I can't raise my shoulder as much, and then it's just on your mind of cutting the shoulders off or buying one of the sleeveless suits, wondering, is it going to make that much of a difference in open water to not have that slickness and the buoyancy on your arms? And what's your experience, and what would your take be on that?
I think from a buoyancy perspective, and this is years ago, Blue 70 had done some research and some testing on the buoyancy of a full body, full arms, full legs versus a sleeveless. And I don't recall, but I don't think there was any really difference in buoyancy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main thing about the full sleeves, and for me, I would only wear full sleeves if the water was below probably 63 degrees. And I've actually have a YouTube video on the Endurance Hour with 4 different types of wetsuits that I own, different styles. And I talk about what type of temperature of the water would I wear: the full sleeve, the sleeveless, the short sleeves and short legs, which is called a short john,
Mm-hmm.
and then just the core short. And I talk about water temperature and why I would wear each one depending on water temperature. So I'm not really doing it for the buoyancy. That's another thing that I don't like about a wetsuit, is I feel my buoyancy is I don't know if it's too buoyant. I don't like the buoyancy feeling that a wetsuit gives me. I like my natural buoyancy. And just that wetsuit feel doesn't feel comfortable.
Well, you are coming from a swimming background too, so your technique and your body position is already at where it
Right.
needs to be, and this would throw off like, no,
Right.
I know what I'm doing here. I don't need your extra, little bump in buoyancy. It throws off what I'm comfortable with, whereas I want it, I need it. I'm relying on it
Right.
to help me stay on top of the water or glide a little easier, less effort.
Yeah, definitely. And so, let's talk about water temperature really quickly. For a World Triathlon Corporation event, if the water temperature is above 76.1, you can't wear a wetsuit, and that includes core shorts. I get that question a lot. Well, if it's too warm, can I still wear the core short? Not if it's above the legal limit. And if you do decide to wear the core short, it is neoprene, it is wetsuit material. If you do decide to wear the core short or the wetsuit, and it's above 76.1 but below 83, you can wear a wetsuit, and you're just not eligible for any type of awards or prizes. Now, if it's above 83, according to USAT and WTC, they will not allow a wetsuit because that's just too warm.
Your body would get too warm, you'd overheat.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing with the WTC, you were talking about half iron or full distances, nothing under that distance.
Right, exactly. And then USA Triathlon, the legal limit is 78. And so if you do a USA Triathlon sanction event, which is normally sprints or Olympic distances, and you do decide to wear a wetsuit above 78, then again, you won't be eligible for prizes.